This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic. What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is April 3rd, 2023. Jonathan Osborne here. As always, you know I am joined by the co-host, Luke Sylvia. Luke, what's up, bro?
Not much. Just coming off another win. I'm getting more and more used to these wins, Jonathan. I gotta say, 5 of the last 6, I believe. Dropping the only one.
6 of the last 8.
6 of the last 8. And here in the last few, the only one you dropped is the Memphis Grizzlies game. So I'm doing pretty well. I can't lie to you. I'm happy to see that the team is winning, and also, meanwhile, watching the standings, just see what the other teams are doing, because it's pretty nerve-wracking.
So we talked to you guys a few weeks ago about our friends over at FOCO that had released their new rookie star edition Paolo Banchero bobblehead that was up for pre-order. They have another one, which is really, really sick. This is going to be limited to 100 bobbleheads, but they're coming out with the 2023 Magic City edition bobblehead for Paolo. So it's Paolo with the Orlando font from this year's City edition. That kind of black jersey with the navy blue collar and sleeves with that nice kind of medieval font across the chest. But it's got that Orlando font behind him. He's sitting on this kind of pedestal with these old kind of medieval columns, on each side of him, with the Orlando Magic logo kind of arching, behind him as well. So if you guys are interested in that, you can go to foco.com, and in their little search bar, just type in Orlando Magic. You'll see all of their offerings there, but that is up for pre-order now. So make sure that you guys go ahead and check that out. And the Magic's magic number, not so magic number at this point, is 1 game. If the Bulls win one more game or the Magic lose a game the rest of the way here, the Magic will be officially eliminated from the play-in. That seems incredibly likely. Magic, playing basically 500 basketball the last few months here. Chicago has been playing pretty well as of late. They've won 7 out of their last 10. We've been saying this, Luke, for probably about, 2.5 weeks now, maybe 3 weeks. The writing is on the wall. The Magic season is all but over. Mm-hmm. But they fought valiantly all the way to the end. You're going to fall just short of the play-in, which is everything that we could have asked for to start the season, especially the way the Magic started the season, those first 25 games. Mm-hmm. But because of that, Luke, we are planning for another draft lottery watch party. Most of the details are going to follow. We're still kind of ironing out the venue and where we're going to have it and what time and everything like that. But we can tell you it's going to be on May 16th, which is a Tuesday. It's going to be that night, so make sure that you clear your schedule for that night and plan on spending it with us at some venue downtown Orlando so that we can all hang out and watch the draft lottery watch party. Last year was a ton of fun. We had over 200 people in attendance. This year we've already got over 250 RSVPs. So if you haven't already, you can click the link in this podcast episode or the YouTube video, wherever you are viewing or listening to the podcast, or you can go to our Twitter page. It's our pinned tweet. You can help RSVP for the event. You don't need to RSVP to be able to attend. It just helps us prepare the venue for how many people are going to be there, which if you want to have a smooth event, it is helpful to do that, Luke. So super excited about that.
Yeah, man. It'll be a good time to be able to hop into that, dude. And I mean, with the Magic winning and going down in the lottery chances, it almost it doesn't matter. It doesn't impact my perspective of that night, because obviously if you move into the top 4, it's now becoming less and less likely. But at the same time, it'll make it that much more exciting if it does happen. And regardless, the place will be electric. We'll have a good time. I can promise you there's going to be, some food available, some drinks available, and a lot of Magic fans. So listen, man, I'm still pumped regardless. And I'm looking forward to it. I hope a lot of people will obviously honor the RSVP, come out, hang out, say hey, and see where the Magic get their picks.
Let's have this conversation now.
Mm.
It seems like every year there's a team kind of in the middle of the pack. And this is me just going straight from like memory. Maybe this is anecdotal evidence, if you will. It seems like every year a team that is in like the middle of the lottery, like that 6 to 10 range, feels like every year a team jumps from that range into the top 4. Like it just feels like an inevitability at this point. We've seen it happen so many times. Even though we don't have the best odds at ending up top 4 or at number 1, it doesn't mean that it's super, impossible or really all that unlikely, because we have seen it happen multiple times. And as we go through the last week of the season here, we have 4 games remaining on the schedule. You are seeing this. We had the conversation a few episodes. Should the Magic be losing games? Are we happy that they're winning games? Kind of what is the way to handle this the rest of the way? And I came to the conclusion this week. Again, you're looking at the schedule. This week you had wins over the Brooklyn Nets. That was last Sunday. And then you have the loss to Memphis. And then you beat Washington. You beat Detroit. Washington was especially interesting because they're right above you in the standings. And the Magic not essentially tanking that game away told me that the front office really isn't all that concerned about their lottery odds this year. And Luke, if they're not that concerned, I'm not that concerned. That tells me that they have a strategy that maybe we're not even thinking of right now for the draft. Maybe they plan no matter what. They're trading these picks. They're packaging them, with a player to move on to, another player, bring another star onto this team, whatever. Either that or they are just convinced, as we all are, that Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner are absolute studs. And they're saying, you know what? This is our core. We are comfortable with these guys. We feel like it is more valuable to get them this type of experience late into the season, playing meaningful competitive games against teams that are also fighting for their playoff play-in lives. And this is going to be more valuable for this team moving forward, Luke. If Jeff and John are not sweating our lottery odds, neither am I.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, and that's what I've definitely been concerned with, the lack of percentage chance for the Magic getting top 4. But then, yeah, I mean, I'm watching the game tonight. Obviously, you feel good after a night like that where you just beat the junk out of the Pistons. And, I'm looking at this team and I'm like, do we need the top 4 pick? Do we need it? And I understand that if we were more in the mix for a top 4 pick, probably my perspective is different. And I would just want the top 4 pick regardless. But, the Magic being 28 and 24 in the last 52, they're over 500 basketball. And this is a team that is just solidly in the mix if it isn't for that terrible start due to injury. And so, yeah, like you said, your pieces are Paolo and Franz. And then are you just going to build around them and then add a star in free agency when the time comes, maybe more of an established star by that time, whoever that is, next offseason, whatever it looks like. Next offseason, by the way, the free agency class, a lot better than the one that's coming up. A lot of big names that are unrestricted free agents. So we'll see how it pans out. But, man, that is kind of the stance I'm taking at this point. And like you said, Jeff and John, they're clearly not worried about it. We saw when they were worried about it, how they function. We saw all last year. Guys out left and right.
Ignis Brazdeikis, baby.
Oh, it's the Ignis Brazdeikis show. But yeah, I mean, they don't care. They're building the culture. They're building a winning culture. And I truly think that at this point, man, they're just going to be adding pieces around Franz and Paolo. And if you stumble into a top 4 pick and can add a third stud alongside them in this draft, I'm sure it'll happen. But otherwise, they might just be looking at doing what we hope they do. Add shooting, add veterans, and see how next year goes. And then you can make your huge moves once you get kind of a test drive next year to see further how this goes. So with Franz and Paolo being your 1 and 2, there's just so many possibilities that can happen. And I'm really excited to see it. I'm hoping that, obviously, that I'm trusting that Jeff and John are going to make the right move.
That being said, what about that Wembanyama step back three today that he missed and got his own rebound for a tip slam? I've never seen that in my life.
Let me reiterate how mad I will be if he ends up in Houston or even Charlotte. I'll be devastated for him. Yes, it would be a great story if he can lead them on to something, but they also could ruin him so quickly. And Houston, that is the number one place. I do not want them to win the number one pick. It can't happen.
Nobody is saying that, like, obviously we don't want great lottery odds. I'm really happy with the way that this season has gone, but in a week from now, crazy things happen. We're kind of right back where we were with, the odds of get like the sixth best odds, kind of where like Portland and Washington, we're really tied right now with Indiana and Washington, and it would come down to like a crazy tiebreaker. We could still end up number 5 where Portland is right now. Portland's just a game behind Orlando. So if, right now we're tied with, Washington and Indiana, and right now because of those tiebreakers that need to happen, we're all sitting there with a 31.9% chance of ending up in the top 4 and a 7.5% chance of ending up the number 1 overall pick. That would change, once those tiebreakers are made. But if we're sitting there at 5 with a 42% chance of ending up with the top 4 pick and a 10.5% chance of ending up with the number 1 overall pick, I'll be totally fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
But like we're saying, John and Jeff, we saw them act much differently this time last year.
Mm-hmm.
Engineering losses.
Yeah.
All right. And people that are saying like, oh, we should be trying to get Victor, we should be trying to get Scoot or Brandon Miller or whoever. Yes, it would be incredible to have 2 guys, especially if you end up with Victor or Scoot alongside Paolo, 2 guys on your team that you believe could be perennial first team All NBA kind of guys, and then Franz, who I still think has like an All NBA ceiling. Like if that guy ends up making like 5 second and third team All NBAs, I wouldn't be shocked if you jumped into your time machine and came back and told me that's what happens. That being said, as great as that would be, we end up with Victor or we end up with Scoot or Brandon Miller, you cannot tell me in my lifetime I'm not seeing an Orlando Magic championship.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, that's not really what it takes. Like, sure, it's great to have that, and it would be an incredible luxury to have Franz, Paolo, and one of these guys at the top of the draft. But, folks, if that doesn't happen, it is not doomsday. If the lottery goes chalk and the Magic right now end up with the 8th and the 12th pick, it is not the end of the world. It is not doomsday. It's still a fantastic day for the Magic, especially if they can add shooting at both of those draft picks.
Yeah.
I just want to go back through like the list of recent NBA champions. And I have a theory that in order to win a title, you need like a top 10 to 15 guy, like a top 10 to 15 guy in the NBA. And then you probably need like a guy that's in like the 25 to 30 range. Like if you're winning a title, you need a guy who's one of the absolute best players in the league. And then you need a guy who's maybe one of the top 20 to 30 players in the NBA. And as I go through the list of recent NBA champions, Luke, we can kind of go through this exercise together. The 2022 Golden State Warriors had Steph Curry. Are Clay and Draymond top 30 guys anymore? Probably not. But they did have Andrew Wiggins, who was an all-star last year.
Mm.
Say whatever you want about 1 year of Andrew Wiggins. Last year, he was arguably top 25, 30 guys in the NBA. I know he was voted as an all-star starter. That never should have happened, but Andrew Wiggins was fantastic last year. The year before that, the Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis and Chris Middleton. And you have Drew Holiday, who's probably somewhere between 30 and 40. You could make an argument that he might be even higher than that. The year before that, Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It helps if you have 2 guys who are arguably top 15. The year before that, the Toronto Raptors, Kawhi and Pascal Siakam. Absolutely. Golden State Warriors in 18-17. Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016. You have LeBron. You have Kyrie. It helps to have Kevin Love as well. The Golden State Warriors in 2015. At that time, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson absolutely matched that criteria. The 2014 San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan, he was up there, but also aging. But you had Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Kawhi Leonard was also kind of coming into his own. That might be the exception, but when you have that many guys on the same team, it goes a long way. The Miami Heat, we don't have to get into that. The Dallas Mavericks, who are we saying on that team besides Dirk is a top 30 guy? Maybe the theory doesn't apply to every team, but for the most part, Luke, I feel like that thinking checks out. If you have Paolo, a guy that we believe can be a top 5, top 10, top 15 guy in the NBA someday, and then Franz Wagner, who I absolutely believe can be a top 25 to 30 NBA player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, I'm just more of the reflective type. And, I'd have to look. I'd have to look and see as far as top however many guy. I would agree. I think that Jeff and John, we find out a lot about what they think about Franz in the coming year or two. We know what they think about Paolo at this point. You can't help but think he's your number one for years and years to come. And then we'll see what they do. What are they going to do? Are they going to let Franz continue to ride out as the 2, grow into his own and all of those things? We'll see about it. I'm not sure. So yeah, maybe that's right. I do want to also note, you need to, every now and then, Jonathan, it's good to reflect. And I do want to reflect on the fact that the Magic were so lucky winning the number 1 pick last year because this offseason is completely different. The world might be ending. Like, if you don't get Paolo Banchero, what does this team look like? You probably watch Franz be the number 1 all year, which is fine, but you definitely don't have a Franz quality productivity type player at the 2, at your number 2 option. So I am very thankful that you're able to secure Paolo, that this front office had the foresight to get Paolo. Man, this season could have been way different, for way worse reasons. So just was thinking about that, man, and just how fortunate that we are as a fan base to have lucked out.
Yeah, I mean, things certainly could have been a lot worse. I think if Franz is your number 1 all year, he's like dead at this point. Like, probably nowhere near the same efficiency. And his efficiency hasn't been like amazing, but in terms of like second year efficiency, he's been fantastic. We've been arguing that he might be the best player, the best second year player in the league, the best player from that draft class so far. I think the only guy that probably has a real argument for that would be Evan Mobley. Everybody else, like the jury is still out on a ton of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Cade, Jalen Green, Scotty Barnes, so on and so forth. Yeah, thank God for Paolo Banchero, because it would be a much different offseason. I completely agree. But when I again, just kind of going back to that logic, you have to have a top 15 guy. You've got to have another all-star caliber kind of guy. I'm not saying that's all you need. The rest, you have to have good roster building the rest of the way. You have to have guys that complement those guys. You have to have a complete and deep roster. But having those 2 guys as like the foundation, and then you can just kind of go from there, I feel pretty good about that. Now, not every young guy that we have on this team is going to like hit there and meet their potential. But when we look at the other guys that we have on this team in terms of role players, Markelle Fultz, Wendell Carter Jr., Gary Harris, if Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony can meet their potential, if Caleb Houston can hit his potential, like, you fast forward 4 or 5 years into the future, I cannot help but feel like the Magic are not that far off being contenders for an NBA championship in a few years here. Especially, like, you have to, like, the teams that build through the draft, and like you have to continue to hit in the draft, right? Like the Warriors, they struck gold with Steph Curry, right? They struck gold with Klay Thompson. They struck gold drafting Draymond Green in the second round. Like, that's a lot of luck, a lot of draft picks that you have to get right. That's what it takes a lot of the time if you're building through the draft. You look at the OKC Thunder. Those guys have hit a lot in the draft, it looks like. And if the Magic can hit in this draft 2 more times, just give me 2 more surefire draft picks here, even if it ends up being 8 and 11. And I get incredibly optimistic, even more so than I am about the Magic now.
You definitely have a ring by 2030.
I hope so. For Alex Martin's sake, I certainly hope so.
That's what I was going to say. Alex Martin's hope so.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the weekly state of the Magic. This week, the Magic went 2-1 on the week, bringing them to a record of 34-44. They have the 5th worst record in the league. They are 13th in the Eastern Conference, currently 4 games back of Chicago for the final play-in spot. They do technically have the same record as Indiana at 11 and Washington at 12, but each of those teams are technically ahead in the standings due to tiebreakers. Indiana, I believe it's just head-to-head record on the season, and Washington has 1 less loss in the Southeast Division than the Magic. So right now, that's the tiebreaker. Now, Washington has a game against Atlanta and I think Miami coming up this week, if I'm not mistaken, so that certainly could change. The Magic only have 1 division game left against the Miami Heat. So we'll see what happens. If they end up tied, I don't know where the tiebreaker goes from there because it's head-to-head record and then it's division record. After that, I believe it might go to conference record if you're in the same conference. And right now they each have 20 wins. So the tiebreakers with the Washington Wizards and the Magic, if they end up with the same record and the same division record and the same conference record, I have no idea. It's going to get pretty tricky there, but we'll see what happens. Even regardless of tiebreakers, I'm pretty sure the tiebreakers only matter for playoff standings. I don't think those tiebreakers pertain to the lottery. I think if you have the same record, it comes down to like the draft lottery tiebreakers, which is essentially like coin flips.
Yeah.
So if the Magic lose another game or the Bulls win another game, then all of that kind of becomes a moot point because then Indiana, Washington, and Orlando are all out of the play-in.
I will say, Jonathan, you were very used to saying the Magic have the fifth worst record in the league because now
they don't anymore. The Portland Trailblazers do.
Now the Magic have the 6th worst record.
6th worst record.
We are no longer
league.
in that 5th worst record spot, which we've been in for months, which is why I don't blame you for saying it. But I did want to
literally months since December.
I did want to point out we are now the 6th worst record in the league.
5
Congratulations,
months,
folks.
I've said 5th worst record in the league, 13th in the Eastern Conference for 5 months on this show, and it has finally changed. However, they are still 13th in the Eastern Conference, which being the same seed, but not like totally out of the playoffs for like 5 straight months is kind of crazy when you think about it in that context.
It's like a purgatory. We were just there for months, and it never felt like we were going to get out, and we pretty much haven't. So there's that,
Yeah. The Magic have an offensive rating of 111.8, which ranks 26th in the league. They have a defensive rating of 113.6, which ranks 16th in the league. Their overall net rating is negative 1.7, which is 24th in the league. However, Luke, going back to December 6th, which is when the Magic were at the end of that 9-game losing streak and immediately followed that up with the 6-game win streak. So 52 games since then, the Magic are 28-24. Their offensive rating is 113.0, which is 24th in the league. Defensive rating is 113. Wow. Their offensive and defensive rating are both 113.0, but the defensive rating is good for 6th in the league. And the overall net rating, I don't understand exactly how these are calculated. I know it gets a little bit deeper than 113.0 because I'm looking at a net rating of 0.1. So they have a positive net rating of 0.1 over the last 52 games, which is good for 17th in the NBA. I believe that would put the Magic at 9th in the Eastern Conference, their 28-24 record since December 6th, which would put them in the play-in. I don't want to make excuses for that 5-20 record, but Magic fans know this. But when other teams look at Orlando's record, they need to realize this team is not nearly as bad as the 33 or 34 and 44 record would have you believe.
Mm-mm.
And I think that was evident tonight playing against the 16-win Pistons. I know we're going to talk more about that game, but I was like, man, like Detroit is really bad and Orlando isn't bad. I know people said that at the beginning of the season looking at the record, but certain folks in the media seem to have come around to the fact that the Magic are not bad.
Yeah, but the Pistons are.
The Pistons are so bad they are boring Luke to death as he sits here yawning. Mm-hmm. Looking at the injury report, Jonathan Isaac still out, season-ending injury for that left adductor. Was dressed in his literal Sunday best today. Preached, did not change, came to the Magic game in his preaching suit. And yeah.
That's not satire, by the way. He literally preached on Sunday and then went to the game wearing the exact... Because producer Kevin said something on our group chat, and he was like, J.I. looks like he came straight from church. And then I remember seeing someone tag J.I., and J.I. shared on Instagram about him preaching this morning. And I screenshot it and I said, is he wearing this? And Kevin says, yep, that's what it was. So, no, not satire. He literally did that today, which love that. Dressed to the nines for the game and church.
Facts. All right, folks, we're going to give a quick shout out to all of our patrons. Our patrons are those folks who help financially support the show. If you would like to be one of these lovely, wonderful people, you can find us at patreon.com/the6man-show. Or as little as $2 a month, you can help financially support the show and help us do all the awesome things that we do. At the end of this season, we're coming up to the end of the year here pretty quickly here. We want to make next season even bigger, even better, increase the quality of the show even more, than we have been able to do already, thanks to the support of our patrons. But if you join our Patreon, you can help us do that even a little bit more. Every episode that we have new patrons, we shout them out. We give them a special shout out. Also, our All-Star, Hall of Fame, and Elite tier patrons all get a special credit on all of our YouTube videos and get access to our Discord channel where you can literally talk with Orlando Magic fans all around the world pretty much 24/7. Like sometimes I wake up and I'm like, you guys are talking about the Magic at like 2, 3 a.m. Like give it a rest. Even I don't do that. Like even I have to get some sleep. But you can join our Discord community. And for our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons, we shout out those folks on every episode, which I'll take the liberty of starting now. Shout out to the Court Cousins, Drew Gooden, Armin, Carson Tulo, Normal, Magic Player History, Julio, Gabe Gaines, Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, The Distract, Donkey Punch Dave, It's Not Okay, K to Say Okiki, Pierre A, Migs, Ors, Nostalgia, and M&M's, Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Eduardo Sanchez, Drum, Danimal, Dodo 15, Bobby Skinner, Goody 93, Teddy Sylvia, Eric Lopez, Fuchsia, Juan Geraldo, Bill Fulton, Edmund Lagone, Hosea Squealin, Destined for Greatness, Caleb Pete, Cannibalism, Time Mr. TV, Joe Rothfuss, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95 Shred, Junior Bruce, Half Freakin', Chahin 177, Himlo, Ban Himro, R Improv 221, Ray Pastrana, Magic Kid 714, Let's Spank Don't Tank, Soft Taco, Jesse, Johnny B, Phantom Wolf 72, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampy, Random Hustle, Bull, his first name is his last name, and only Franz. Shout out to all of our patrons. You can find us at patreon.com/the6man-show. Luke, going all the way back to Friday night, the Magic took on the Wizards. Again, Markelle Fultz, the DMV's favorite son, returned to Washington and plays well as he always does. The Magic had a 16-point deficit in the third quarter. We're down by 11 to start the fourth, but rallied all the way back for the 116-109 win on the road over the Washington Wizards. Pretty solid defensive performance for the Magic, holding the Wizards to 39% from the floor, 34% from the three-point line. Gave up some offensive rebound opportunities, leading to second chance points for the Wizards, was kind of helped them stay in the game. But the Magic, 26 free throw attempts in this game, Luke, shot 50% from the floor. So really good offensive performance from the Magic. 3 guys scoring 20 points or more. Franz Wagner with 20, Paolo Banchero with 30 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 blocks. Markelle Fultz, 25 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. The thing that really jumped out to me during the game, Luke, and on the box score, 14 blocks for the Orlando Magic. There were 8 guys that registered a block in this game, and 5 of those 8 guys had multiple blocks. Paolo, again, leading the way with 3 blocks on the night for the Magic. Really just I don't want to say complete performance from the Magic, but a really impressive second half out of the Magic.
Yeah, and let's just start here. It makes a world of a difference when a guy like Kristaps Porzingis is not in the game, not being able to be a rim deterrent, averaging a block and a half a game, made a world of a difference. Because in this one, the Magic have 58 points in the paint. And you, listen, for a little bit, Jonathan, I just thought we were going to get Corey Kisperted all night. And we kind of did. I mean, for the most part, 9 of 14 from 3 for Corey Kispert.
They did a lot better job in the second half. I think he had like 18 in the first.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they did a lot better from there on out. But at the beginning of the game, it just set the tone for what I thought would be a long night where you lose to a team that very clearly is not better than the team that we had on the floor last night. So that fourth quarter was ultimately the most impressive quarter of the game. You score 31. You hold Washington to just 13 points in that fourth quarter, because it did feel like that the first few quarters. I was just frustrated. I was just irritated because I was like, there's no reason watching this game that the Magic should not be able to win this game. And so to see them really turn it on and put the clamps on in the fourth, clicking on all cylinders in that fourth quarter, super impressive. And then you get obviously that 25-point game from Markelle. Then you're 30 from Paolo, you're 20 from Franz, 16 from Cole Anthony. Like, everybody was just, it felt really good. And like I said, especially in that fourth quarter where you're able to do what you should have been able to do all game. But you consolidate into a quarter and we'll take it. That's how you get out of there with the win. It's a game you should have won. I'm glad that they were able to right the ship and get it done.
So, I mean, questionable first 3 quarters, defensively. Overall, I didn't think it was that bad. But the first 3 quarters, 32 points for Washington, 31 for them in the second, and then 33 in the third quarter. Without Bradley Beal, without Kyle Kuzma, without Kristaps, it was pretty evident that it was like, all right, if you guys want to take 53s, which is what the Wizards did, which is just crazy, kind of on its face, if that's how you guys want to play and that's how you guys decide you want to beat us, that's what you're going to have to do. And aside from Corey Kispert, who shot 64%, like you go down, DeLon Wright, 2 of 6, Monte Morris, 1 of 3, Johnny Davis, 2 for 10, Kendrick Nunn, 2 for 5, Jordan Goodwin, 1 for 5. Like, the Wizards just could not shoot the ball. It seemed pretty evident that was the Magic strategy. Like, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to beat us from behind the arc. They were not going to let them, beat them at the rim.
Kind of like that Grizzlies game.
Solid.
The Grizzlies game where the Grizzlies let us do exactly that as well and shoot 53s, and we saw how it went. So I'm glad that the Wizards didn't pay attention to a losing recipe, because they literally did what we did against Memphis.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say that we have a Corey Kispert, a guy capable of hitting, 9 threes in a game, like kind of like an assortment of looks, a lot of them wide open, especially in that first half. We need a guy like that this offseason. I know everybody talks about Grady Dick, just a lot of funny jokes that can be made with that name. But if we add a kid that can shoot the ball like that, I'm not even saying it has to be Grady, but we've talked about this a million times. If we can add some shooting like that this offseason, I would love to have a guy who is capable of doing that. Like, Gary Harris might give you 1 or 2 of those a year, but I very much would like a guy who, like, volume guy who is capable of getting looks and knocking looks down like that. But again, you cannot argue with the 116-109 victory of the Washington Wizards. Again, now you split the season series 2 apiece with the Wizards, and right now, because of that Southeast Division record, Washington is just above you in the standings, Luke. I hope after this game, so I hope on Saturday, you got 50% off your online order from Papa John's with code MAGICWIN, because don't forget, the day following every Magic victory, we don't have many games left in the season, folks, so take advantage of this, but the day following every Magic victory, you can get 50% off your online order from Papa John's with code Magic win. Luke, the Pistons on Sunday night. This was the longest game that I can possibly remember. The first half, especially between the officiating, the reviews, the game clock and shot clock issues. The first half, I believe, took pretty close to an hour and 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have, a 15-minute halftime session. Like usually an NBA game is like, 2 hours and 15 minutes to like 2.5 hours. At one point, this game was on pace to be 3 hours. Like that first half, just absolutely ridiculous. To their credit, like the Magic very easily like could have gotten, out of rhythm and just, kind of got out of what they wanted to do. But still like led for the majority of this game and led by double digits and 20 points for the majority of this game. Magic still did a great job against the Pistons, never really giving them a chance. I know the Pistons, without Cade Cunningham, a team that is, I believe the worst record in the league. 16-62. Another year where they're going to have top odds at the number 1 overall pick. It's good to see the Magic, who have struggled, putting the Pistons out of their misery earlier in the season and in some of their earlier meetings, and just come out and absolutely blow the doors off of them. A 26-point lead. And honestly, I feel like this could have been a 30 or a 40-point win if the starters, would have played like the whole fourth quarter. A lot of the fourth quarter was just game's over, garbage time. We saw Michael Carter-Williams make his season debut for the Magic. We saw Jay Scrubb make his season debut for the Magic. Chuma Okeke, he came in, I believe, like midway through the third. He played 11 and a half minutes in this game, but we also saw Caleb Houston and Admiral Schofield get in this game. A lot of garbage time in this game, Luke, but just a super well-balanced offensive attack for the Magic. They shot 57% from the floor, 51% from the three-point line, and we go down the box score: 16 from Franz, 14 from Paolo, 14 from Wendell, 11 from Markel, 17 from Cole, 18 from Jalen, 13 from Goga, 11 from Moritz. For your leading scorer to have 18 points in a game that you as a team scored 130, basically, just a super well-balanced offensive attack and pretty solid defensive performance against a not very good Detroit Pistons team. I'm going to steal your line. Tonight, the Pistons got out-talented.
Mm-hmm. Amen, hallelujah, they did. And,
Amen, hallelujah.
And I'm looking, okay, average free throw attempts per game, the number 1 team in the league getting to the free throw line is the LA Lakers. They shoot 26.7 free throws a game. Tonight, the Pistons, and this is the reason this game took years, the Pistons and the Magic combine for 76 free throws attempted. The Magic shooting 40 and the Pistons shooting 36. The Magic were awful at the free throw line. In large part, it's due to Paolo being 4 of 11 from the free throw line. He's got to figure it out from the line. Being a guy who is going to be shooting 7, 8 plus free throw attempts a game on average for the rest of his career, needs to figure it out. 4 of 11 is inexcusable, and he could have easily ended the game with 18 instead of 14 as a result, and 18 and 9 sounds a lot better than 14 and 9. He only shot 9 times. He was 4 of 9. So the efficiencies were fine. But if you're going to get to the line, and that's going to be a big part of your game, you've got to hit these free throws. The Magic as a team shoot 62.5%. And I want to say the Magic shoot like 78 or 79 as a team this year. Maybe over that point at this point. It was a little while ago when I looked at that. But you shoot 62%. The Magic could have pretty easily won this game by 35. We'll take 26. But it just a glaring issue tonight was the free throws. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was a really weird, stupid game to say the least. The Magic win every quarter though. We'll say that, which I don't know how many times it's happened this year. Maybe one other time. but I'm pretty consistently checking that when it comes to games, and I rarely see the Magic win every single quarter.
The last, let's see, is this 28 games here? So basically, since the start of February now, Paolo is shooting 69.4% from the free throw line. Yeah, nice. Yeah, 69.4% since the beginning of January, which for Paolo is 27 games. Sorry. Yeah, 69.4% from the free throw line. Definitely an area where he needs to improve, to your point, like the volume that he's going to be seeing throughout his career. Like 69, even, I mean, right on the season, I believe he's at what, 74%, which is still good enough. Like, this is never going to become like a hack a Shaq or, hack a Dwight scenario. But Magic playing close games, Paolo Banchero needs to be able to knock down free throws. What did you say it was 4 of 11 tonight?
Yeah.
It's just not acceptable. You become a 85% 3-point shooter, like you're going to add 3-4 points a game onto your scoring average.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in close games, like we go back and we'll do this after the season is over, but how many times have the Magic lost a game this year by like 5-6 points where they missed 7 or 8 free throws? Like, I'm going to say at least 10 that I can think of, where if the Magic shoot a decent percentage from the free throw line, they're in a game or they just outright win a game. So it's going to be super important. Like, I hate to be picky about a guy who's having one of the best rookie seasons of the last 30 years, but if there's one thing that I would like to see him really probably above everything else is improve as a free throw shooter. I think everything else is going to come along for him, but like free throw shooting, that's just going to be like getting more reps and improving. The 3-point shooting is going to come along. He's a crazy skilled shot maker in the mid range and in the post and everything like that. The turnarounds, the pull ups, we know he can hit that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's going to get better. But yeah, we're talking about a 26-point game, and we're like literally nitpicking at this point. But like midway through the third quarter, I'm like, all right, the Magic are going to win this game. This is great. It's nice to have that feeling.
Yeah, they're terrible. The Pistons. Can't emphasize that enough. They were who they threw out there just atrocious.
Who knows? They get Victor Wembanyama. Maybe they want to send a little Jalen Duren down to Orlando. Yeah, I wouldn't be too mad about that. I'm sure it wouldn't happen. I'm sure they'd be like, no, we can absolutely play Jalen Duren next to Victor Wembanyama. I'm just a big Jalen Duren fan. But yeah, again, good to get the win. Beat teams that you should beat. And a team that so often this season has played up to competition and down to competition. It was really nice, like from the opening tip, the Magic were like, no, we're going to blow this team out of the water tonight. And that's exactly what they did. So credit to the Magic. Season's coming to an end, Luke. Draft lottery. We're talking a lot about the draft lottery and draft lottery odds. Let's go ahead and give a nice little spin on the Tankathon. So we talked about this earlier in the episode. But right now, because the Wizards, the Pacers, the Magic all have the same record, we're going to have to wait for some of those tie-breaking scenarios for the draft lottery if it ends up like that the rest of the way here. But Tankathon is kind of messed up because of that. But I'm still, regardless, going to go ahead and spin the lottery. And in this scenario, the Magic ended up, I don't like this, with the 9th and the 12th pick. Let's see, Utah jumped up to the number 1 overall pick. And Indiana jumped up into the top 4 and knocked out San Antonio and Charlotte, which knocked the Magic down a little bit. And they ended up with the 9th and the 12th picks here. If we go ahead and take a look at the mock draft, that would give us Grady Dick and Bryce Sensabaugh. I would not be all that mad at that.
No, yeah. Yeah, give us a little shooting. I'll be all right. That's all.
Give us a little.
Yeah.
Never mind. Not going to say it.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
There will be plenty of time for Grady jokes if he ends up, playing for the Orlando Magic.
There's going to be so many. Be beautiful.
It's going to be lots. It's going to be bags of jokes. Lots of jokes.
I do want to point out, you said in that spin, the Jazz jump up, right? I looked from last year, obviously the Kings were the team that jumps into the top 4. And they had a 32% chance of jumping into the top 4, which right now, as it stands, the Magic have a 31.9% chance. They're literally the same odds, I believe, that the Kings had. So anything can happen and anything is possible. Why not the Magic, you know?
So last year was the Sacramento Kings. Let's go to 2021. The year before that, it was the Toronto Raptors. We remember that. In 2020, pretty much chalk. I think the Charlotte Hornets jumped up into the top 4, but it was pretty much chalk for the most part. 2019, you had the New Orleans Pelicans, the Grizzlies, and the Lakers all jump up into the top 4. Pelicans had a 33-49 record. The Grizzlies 33-49. The Lakers 37-45. They kicked the Cavs, the Suns, and the Bulls out of the top 4. The Cavs had a 19-63 record. The Suns 19-63. The Bulls 22-60. So that was crazy. 2018, let's see, the Sacramento Kings, they jump up to top 2, where they took, was it Marvin Bagley? That was the Luka year. My goodness. Going back to 2017, again, the Sacramento Kings, they jumped up to 3. I believe that was the De'Aaron Fox draft. Let's go to 2016. That was pretty much chalk. And now we're getting to the point where the odds were a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, since the odds have changed, it's basically almost every year a team has jumped from kind of that mid-lottery into the top 4. So as you're sitting here and you're looking at the odds, just because the Magic don't have as good of odds as they did last year to end up in the top 4 or even to get the number 1 overall pick, history would show us that's not usually how it goes. Usually a team jumps up. Why not us? Why not now?
Absolutely.
Let's take a look at the week ahead, Luke. On Tuesday and Thursday, the Magic are going to be taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers at 7 o'clock, each of those matchups. Then on Friday, so you've got a home game on Thursday, then you have a road game on Friday. Thursday, Friday, home away back-to-back. Don't love those. At the Brooklyn Nets, that game tips off at 7:30 Eastern. And then on Sunday, Easter Sunday, you take on the Miami Heat in Miami to end the season. That game is going to tip off at 1 o'clock. Luke, give me your prediction for this week.
I'll start with this. You very easily could go 0-4.
Yeah.
I'm going to say you go 1-3. And your win comes against Brooklyn off that back-to-back, but you're going to be tired of losing after the Cavs could likely wear you out for 2 straight games. The Cavs have dropped 2 games straight right now. So they're going to want to get back on track. They're going to take their anger out on us, and I think that
they're about to beat the Indiana Pacers.
Okay, thank you for that. Regardless, that doesn't change my prediction here. Cleveland coming down the stretch, they want to go into the playoffs probably on a high note. A lot of momentum. 2 wins. I'm sure their eyes are going to be real big. Looking that they're playing against us, they need to get it. I do think that they're going to get those wins, but yeah, I think your sole win this week and to end the season comes with and against the Brooklyn Nets.
If I'm Cleveland, I'm looking at the standings right now. Philadelphia sitting at 51-26. The Cavs are 48-30. They have an outside chance. Right now, they're 4th in the Eastern Conference. They have an outside chance of getting up to 3. The Cavs' last 3 games at Orlando versus Charlotte, all of those should be winnable games for them. If you're looking at Philadelphia's schedule the rest of the way, they're at home for Boston, at home for Miami, and then they're at Atlanta and at Brooklyn the last 4 games. Let's say they want to rest up Joel Embiid and Harden going into the playoffs. What's more important for them? Those guys getting rest heading into the playoffs or securing the number 3 seed? I don't think it's that crazy for Cleveland to be sitting there thinking like, no, we need to win out and give us a chance at reaching 3rd in the Eastern Conference. So Cleveland is going to want to win those games. Absolutely. Completely agree. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say you go 2-2 on the week. I think you find a way to split Cleveland, and then I have to believe I have to believe that you beat Miami the last game of the season. Send us out the right way. Beat the dirty, stinking, cheating Heat. Send me off into the sunset with a win. I'll be more than happy about that. This is purely heart talking. I've already lost this competition for the season, I'm pretty sure. So I just need the Magic to close out the year with a big fat dub over the Miami Heat. Like a blowout win. Producer Kevin is coming in off the top rope saying how I am probably won this past week. It's 6-6. This changes everything. It also changes nothing. I'm still going to say 2-2. It would be crazy, not crazy, but it would be really impressive for the Magic to go 3-1 this final week. And I just have to believe that you find a way to beat the Miami Heat. So I'm sticking with my pick there.
All right. For the championship. For the record prediction championships.
For all the marbles, even though I don't think we wagered anything on this.
Nope, we didn't. Nope, just marbles.
Nope. Just my dignity. That way I didn't lose to Luke twice this season.
I hope you're right. I hope we go 2-2 for what it's worth.
That'd be fantastic. Let's take a look at Brooklyn really quickly before we go ahead and close the show out here. Their schedule the rest of the way: Minnesota, Detroit, Orlando, and Philadelphia. Does it really matter to the Brooklyn Nets in terms of standings? They want to win a couple of games this week because they're 2 games up on Miami right now for 6. 4 would play 5, and then 3 would play 6. I'm guessing the Cavs would much rather play the Nets in the first round than the Knicks, if I had to guess. So they're definitely still playing for that 3rd seed. But if I'm Philadelphia, I would also much rather want to play the Nets than play the Knicks. So they probably want to hold on to 3 if I had to guess.
Yep.
So these games are really going to matter for Cleveland, for Brooklyn, for Miami. They're going to matter to the Magic, but kind of not really, not nearly as much as these other teams. So we'll see what happens here, Luke. But 4 games left for the rest of the season, and then we hit the offseason. Any thoughts before we wrap it up here?
No, let's close it out strong, baby. Go Magic.
Let's wrap it up. All right, folks, that is going to do it for this episode. For Luke Sylvia, this is Jonathan Osborne. You guys have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya. Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!